The next one that pops up, referred to as just Blue Number Two. I've also heard you call this
Yeah,
Frankenstein, which I'm going to ask why, but this is the
sure.
second one. This one, my understanding, unlike the first two, is actually a Fender. So what can you tell us about Blue Number Two?
Sure. So Blue Number Two, aka the guitar you see back here. So I'll pull mine up here because I have it so I have it with me. So this guitar, this replaced the red Telecaster. So from my understanding is that this guitar was built by Timmy Chunks, who was Billy's guitar tech for 10 years of the band from 94 to about 2004.
Mm.
Apparently, this was a guitar that he built. It is pretty much a parts caster. There's a lot of really interesting details about this that don't necessarily line up with a traditional Stratocaster. The first thing you'll notice is the left-handed tremolo. That's pretty that's very like Stevie Ray Vaughan. If you know anything about his, if anybody knows anything about his guitars, his was always a right-handed body with a left-handed tremolo, and even on the back here is that this is routed in the opposite direction
Why
to
is
make
that?
to
I know nothing about this. Why is that?
this was, as far as this guitar is concerned, well, I know, well, one thing for sure is that Billy started putting his initials on his guitar because Stevie Ray Vaughan did the same thing. Like he got like stickers from a truck stop and like it said SRVs. So Billy Joe did the same thing, except this was done with like tape. So it
Mm.
was kind of the same thing. So it may have been a homage to that, but really from what I've gathered of this guitar is that when the warm-up tour finishes, they end in New York, and that they're in New York when the record comes out, and they play a record release show at Don Ho's, which I believe is in New York City. And there's a couple photos from that show that I've seen. They're all playing on borrowed instruments. Okay, so they had played Howard Stern earlier that day, and then they went and played this record release show, and then they go back home for about 2 weeks, and then they go back out on tour when the album comes out.
This is Nimrod?
This is Nimrod. Yeah, this is
Okay.
fall 1997. And so by that point, he has his original blue, the darker blue Fernandez that gets destroyed at the end of the tour, and the pink Stratocaster with the single humbucker. The earliest photo that I have of this guitar is November 2nd, 1997 in Florida. The tour started either on Halloween or the day before of 1997. It was the end of October. They went back out on the road. And I can only surmise is that this guitar started its touring life at the end of October. So, and really, it's really just from what I've gathered, it's a parts caster. You know, it was really just another guitar that they needed. I guess Billy didn't like the Telecaster that much, the red Telecaster that he was playing, that he had with him, and was just like, okay, let's make another blue guitar. So they just rounded up everything that they needed, and just like, we got a bridge, it's a lefty, okay, we'll make that work. Duncan JB, done. Put it at an angle, set. Got a bunch of stickers, done. Okay, let's hit the road. It's really as easy as that. And just like I said, these conversations were not happening back then. You know, just people would not have been able, just they didn't know the difference, and nor did they really care. They're just like, okay, we'll go see Green Day. Did we have fun? Cool. All right, on to the next thing.
Yeah. So the Frankenstein name, I mean, I'm assuming
Mm-hmm.
that's because it's just kind of built together from random parts,
It's
it
just kind of,
seems.
yeah, it's just kind of slapped together. It's really interesting too because this guitar is still around. It's in the punk rock museum that Mike from
Mm.
No Effects put together. However, it is actually with the second neck that is on that guitar. So this guitar, it is definitely a Fender built instrument, like, or at least a Fender parts built. And originally from the end of 1997 until the end of August of 1998, there was what was on this guitar was a bird's eye maple Fender custom shop neck. And what was unique about it was, although I don't have it on mine, is that the Fender logo was scratched off. And you can see, and there's some really good photos I have of that. The Fender logo is scratched off here, and the original contour body water slide decal, all of those are scratched off on the front because Billy's never had a formal endorsement with Fender. He's always been a Gibson artist, but Fender will still give them stuff. Bill Schneider says, yeah, Fender will just give us stuff even though Billy's a Gibson artist. they're just cool like that. They made us a run of guitars at the end of one tour.
So you think he scratched it off due to that, not more or less like wanting it to be a Fernandez somehow?
I don't. It could be any of those things, but yeah, just in the photos that I have, the logos are scratched off. Although, again, even though I don't have it on mine because I can't find them, is that there is a custom shop logo on the back that is still there.
So when did the second neck get applied or swapped?
It's interesting because the earliest that I see it is August of '98. Is that they were doing a festival run over in Europe, and at some point it gets swapped for I guess in the '90s. I think in the '80s actually, Fender started doing like their vintage reissue guitars that you see all the time. It's kind of some of their best sellers. Around this time is when they started doing those, and they just found like a vintage reissue 50s neck and just put it on the guitar. Found another set of Spurzels because that's another thing Billy's always loved. Spurzel locking tuners as well. It's another important spec.
So he swapped that pretty quick. That's interesting because this thing's basically played 97, 98, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow.
The last day that I have down for this guitar is whenever their last day of the first time they went to South America was in November of 1998, and it was during the Nimrod tours. So they took their set of four guitars with them.
I wonder why that got yanked out of the rotation all these years.
What I was told, it's interesting because actually the original neck is actually owned by a friend of mine who I won't say his name because I don't know if he wants it out there, but I really want to tell this story. At a certain point, a friend of mine actually ends up buying the original custom shop neck, the bird's eye neck. And the story is that it was found in a tour bus closet. Apparently somebody who owns a bus company, Green Day took one of his buses out on a leg of the Nimrod tour. And while he was cleaning it out, he finds this neck in a closet while he's cleaning it, and he's like, oh, he looks to see like if there's a name on it, because sometimes like people write things like on the heel or any things like that, and he kind of figures out like, oh, this belongs to somebody in Green Day. I'm going to try to get this back to them. And if you know anything about Green Day, they are notorious for not returning phone calls. They almost did not make it in the Simpsons movie because of that. It's a little fun fact.
That's funny.
But so Green Day doesn't return his calls, and so he lists it on eBay. This friend of mine comes across it, and he ends up being the lone bidder and gets it just for a really good price. It was really a classic case of nobody really knew what they had.
Yeah.
Thing. So he got really lucky with it. And what makes me happy is that he took this neck and he put it on a blue body, and he still plays it. Like he's active playing with a band right now, and he says it's his main guitar for everything. It just feels the best and it stays in tune.
Oh man, that's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. And was he able to, I guess, probably photo match it or just, be confident it's the right neck?
And when he and I started becoming friends and both kind of figuring out like we're both kind of nerds about this, we kind of narrowed it down. Like, yeah, it came off that guitar because we don't know where this one is. This one got destroyed. This other one was kept by someone from their crew, and we were able to narrow it down that it was off of this guitar.
Isn't this the one that you said was for sale in like Green Day's coffee shop or something like several years back, right, and nobody bought it?
Exactly. Yep. So I'm sure some people know that about 10 years ago, Billie Joe and Bill Schneider opened a store called Broken Guitars in Oakland. It was like their guitar store kind of thing, like something to do when they're not on the road. And one thing that they would do is they would occasionally put guitars from their warehouse either for sale or like on display. And so I've actually seen I saw one other guitar of theirs for sale at one point. Apparently I learned this secondhand. Apparently they did try to sell this guitar, and they tried to sell it for, I believe it was about $3,000.
Oh my God.
Nobody bought it.
Oh my God.
Because I can tell you that after the tour, it was given to a friend of theirs. I'm not exactly sure who. after the tour was done, it was given to a friend of theirs, but they took the initials off. So it has this kind of like, before it was given to the museum, it has this kind of like retired look of like all the stickers are still on it and it's still strung up, but the BJ initials, those are gone.
It's just one of those things, man. It's like you really have to be a hardcore nerd like we are, or like you are with Green Day, to even kind of know what you're looking at. I mean, the same thing happened to me with Tom's Les Paul. You show that Les Paul to 500 people, and 498 of them are just going to think it's a random Les Paul. You have to have the knowledge and the eye to look for just stupid shit that we pick up on to be confident it is what it is.
It really is down to that. You really have to know what you're looking at and to understand that at a certain point, this was the guitar that would close every show when Good Riddance became their show closer. At the end, during their whole encore thing back then, when Trey would destroy his drums and all of this, is that he would kind of just shred on Blue, put Blue down. Timmy Chunks would be standing off to the side with this guitar. He would walk over. He's standing there and he looks over to Tim. Tim flicks it over and he starts playing Good Riddance. What guitar is he playing? He's playing that one.
Man. So this one's on display currently at the Punk Rock Museum?
Yep. So before they gave it to Fat Mike from NoFX, they put new initials on it, which honestly I'm glad that they did that.
Yeah.
Because it would really kind of make no sense not to.
Yeah, to me,
that's
kind
of like, gave them the guitar just without anything on, and I could understand it's a timepiece, but it wouldn't make any sense to not put the initials back on.
Yeah, to me, that's what like makes it just super iconic. As soon as you see that big BJ on the front.
Exactly.
That's cool, man. I didn't realize that was on display. So anybody listening, if you've been to the Punk Rock Museum, you've seen it, or if you go there, like, tag me in a picture because I want to see this thing.
Yep.
I'd love to visit that. I don't think it's going to happen, but it'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, they're doing really well. I would like to get there too someday to see the guitar in person and just be like, hey, I own a copy of that. It's pretty cool.
Well, and that's a good point. Like, for those of you watching this on YouTube, you have an amazing replica behind you.
And here,
this is really, and this is where like a lot of our conversations spawn, like in our little group chat about you were working really hard to identify the stickers and build this and, kind of just like showing us your progress and picking our brains on like the stickers and shit. But why did you decide to make a replica of Frankenstein? Like, why not the others? Why this one?
Yeah, that's probably, it's like, why did I pick this one and not his original Fernandez? Well, to me, this is funny enough, the guitar that I have the most connection with. I would say that a lot of it definitely had to do with what stickers were on it. One notable, if I can shift position here, one notable sticker would have to be this one down here, Drink Coffee and Destroy. If you see, it says Bouncing Souls, New Jersey on it. This is a band from New Jersey. And if you know anything about Timmy Chunks, is that Tim's an old hardcore guy who's from New York that actually lived with the Bouncing Souls at one point. And this was around the time that they were starting to gain traction, and they're one of my favorite punk bands. And so one thing to understand is that, especially on the other guitars, is that a lot of the stickers that are on it are probably Tim putting stuff on there because Green Day, they still support smaller bands. Like at this point, Lookout was taking off, and they had a lot of really good bands that they were putting on the label. So like the Crumbs was another. Degeneration was another band that they toured with in '97. They actually played a song with them at one point. Fang was an older East Bay band that started making a comeback around that time. The Queers is under here too. I'm not sure what Riot is though. Could never really find a straight answer for that, but it seemed like I had to replicate it obviously. So yeah, this is my replica. We'll probably have to talk about this later on at some point, probably its own video or whatever.
Yeah, we may have to do our separate video just specific to that one because, I mean, is that the first of its kind? I haven't seen many replicas of that, if any.
As far as I know, it is. I've never seen anybody really tackle any of these guitars before. Really, everybody kind of gravitates towards, and I totally understand why. A lot of people really gravitate towards the original Fernandez because to them, that is like the most inspiring. And I totally get that. But really to me, like, this is the one that I have the most connection with, because of some of the songs that he played it on. Like Nimrod's one of my favorite albums, and just to see him play this guitar, it was just like, honestly, like, this is my favorite blue guitar. The other thing too is that this is the blue guitar that he's used the most. It's not the original. Like, actually, I did the math with how many shows that they played. Like, this is the other blue guitar that's gotten the most use.
Mm.
And the other thing too is that if you notice, out of the 4 Nimrod guitars besides the original Fernandez, this is the only one that's still around. The darker blue one got destroyed. The other peach one, which we'll talk about in a second, we don't know where that one is, but this one is still around. So there must have been something about it that he liked, that was like, yeah, don't leave that one alone. Don't destroy it.
Did you, on yours, did you get an official like fender neck, and then did you go to the extent of like sanding off the fender?
No, so actually, I got the body and neck are from Warmouth, or a parts company. I'm sure most people would know who make their Tom DeLonge guitars. I got most of my parts from them as well. I do not have, at least right now, I don't have any headstock logos on there. I really would like to find a custom shop one. However, they're not readily available to avoid counterfeit guitars getting out there. So I definitely want to do that at one point. The other thing too is that the original custom shop neck had a bit of a vintage tint to it, which is very much a 50s thing, like the vintage lacquer, like the amber kind of look. That neck had it as well. I unfortunately could not afford to have that done, but I could totally have it done at a later date. So, but yeah, there's my Frankenstein replica.
Yeah, that thing's sick.